Okay, so the most carefully argued scientific writing that exists, it never gets published. Like, ever. It just disappears.
Into what I am now calling the Rebuttal Graveyard.
Which is a real thing that we made up just now, but it's real. So here's the thing. When a scientist submits a paper to a journal, reviewers come back with comments, sometimes brutal ones, and the scientist has to write a rebuttal, a point-by-point response defending their work.
And these documents are, they're genuinely extraordinary. Like, we're talking sometimes 30, 40 pages of dense, precise argumentation.
Right, but here's what happens to them.
Nothing.
Nothing! They go to the editor makes a decision, and the rebuttal just ceases to exist. It's not archived, it's not published, it doesn't go on a preprint server. In most cases, it literally lives only in someone's email inbox.
Which, okay, I mean, that sounds like a minor administrative thing, but it's actually kind of a massive problem when you start to pull on that thread.
It really is. And I think most people outside academia have no idea this system even exists.
So let's back up. The peer review process, the way it's supposed to work, is you submit, reviewers push back, you respond, and that back and forth is supposed to make the science better.
It's supposed to be a dialogue.
Right, but the rebuttal, the scientist's half of that dialogue, is invisible. And what researchers have started noticing is that the arguments scientists make in rebuttals are they're often more rigorous than what ends up in the final paper.
Wait, really? Like, more rigorous than the thing that actually gets published?
Yeah, because, okay, so think about it. When you're writing a paper, you're trying to tell a story, right? You're making choices about what to include, what to cut for length. You're selling it a little. You're selling it, exactly. But a rebuttal? You're not selling anything. You're responding to someone who's actively trying to find holes. So you go deep. You run extra analyses. You address edge cases you didn't even put in the paper.
So the rebuttal is almost like a shadow paper that's sitting right next to the published one.
That no one can see.
That's kind of wild.
And here's the counterintuitive part. Some of the findings in those rebuttals, the additional experiments, the clarifications, they're actually more important than the original claims. But because they're buried in a document that doesn't exist publicly, other scientists can't build on them.
They can't even know to look for them.
Right, so you get this situation where it's like the scientific record is this official published layer, and then underneath it there's all this dark matter, all this reasoning and evidence that shaped the published work but left no trace.
Looping back to what you said about the dialogue, it's like if you could read a court decision, but you couldn't read the arguments the lawyers made. You'd see the verdict, but not the reasoning.
That's exactly it.
And there's another layer here, which I find kind of devastating, which is reviewers change their minds. Like, it happens. A good rebuttal moves someone. But we have almost no systematic data on when or why or what kinds of arguments actually work. Because the arguments aren't recorded anywhere. They're not recorded anywhere. So we can't learn from them. We can't study what makes peer review actually function versus when it's just
Theater.
yeah, scientific theater.
And some journals are starting to experiment with publishing reviewer comments alongside papers, that's a step. But rebuttals are still almost universally excluded.
So we're getting half the conversation. Okay, so what does this actually mean going forward? Because I feel like this is one of those things that's been broken so long, people forgot it's broken.
Right. I mean, there's a real movement now toward open peer review, making the whole exchange public. And the argument for that is exactly this. The rebuttal is scientific knowledge. It should be treated like scientific knowledge.
And there's a transparency argument too. If reviewers know their comments will be public, and scientists know their responses will be public,
the whole thing gets more honest.
potentially. I mean, there are counter arguments, like people worried reviewers will pull punches,
Or that junior scientists will be afraid to push back against a famous reviewer if their name's attached.
which is a real thing. But I think the momentum is toward more openness. And the rebuttal graveyard is kind of the clearest argument for why.
because right now we're throwing away some of the best thinking in science. Every single day. I'm Nova. And I'm Alex. And this is Code and Cosmos.